sky was burning red above the planet Virelia. Smoke covered the horizon as the great palace of the alien queen shook from explosions. The air smelled like dust and fire. People were running, shouting, escaping. The royal guards, who had promised to protect their queen, had dropped their weapons and fled into the smoke. Fear had taken over their hearts. Only one soldier did not run. He was not even one of them. He was human. His name was Captain Ryan Hale. He had come to Virelia as part of an alliance mission between Earth and the alien empire. He was supposed to observe, not fight. But when the sky turned red and the palace began to fall, he couldn't turn away. Ryan stood at the center of the throne hall. The tall marble doors were cracked. The shining banners of the royal family were torn. Behind him, the alien queen struggled to stay on her feet. Her long silver hair was covered with dust, her shining armor broken in many places. Her face, once calm and proud, now showed shock and disbelief. "Your Majesty, we have to move," Ryan said. He reached out his hand to help her stand. She looked around the empty hall. Her eyes were full of sadness. "They left me," she whispered. "Even my own guards." Ryan looked at her, then at the open gate where enemy drones were approaching. "Then I'll stay," he said quietly. "You're not alone." The sound of metal steps filled the air as hundreds of enemy drones approached the palace. They were tall black machines with glowing red eyes. They came to capture the queen and end her rule forever. Ryan checked his pulse rifle. It was half-charged. His armor was damaged, but his face was calm. He moved in front of the queen and aimed his weapon. The palace gates exploded open. Bright fire and smoke filled the room. The machines entered, shooting beams of energy in every direction. Ryan fired back. Each shot he took hit true. Metal burst and fell to the ground. He moved fast, keeping himself between the queen and the danger. "Run!" the queen shouted. "You'll die if you stay here." Ryan didn't move. "Not leaving you behind," he said firmly. The machines advanced. He threw himself in front of one that tried to fire at her. The blast hit his armor, sending him crashing into the wall, but he kept going. He fired again and again until the last drone fell. The hall was silent except for the sound of his heavy breathing. Smoke covered everything. Ryan turned around. The queen was staring at him wide-eyed. Her wings, large and glowing, trembled slightly. She had seen many battles, but never someone fight like this. "Why?" she whispered. "You're human. You owe me nothing." He wiped the dust from his face. "Doesn't matter. You needed help." The walls cracked again as another explosion hit. Ryan looked up. The ceiling was about to fall. "We have to go," he said. He reached for her arm and pulled her toward the back of the hall. There was a hidden passage known only to the royal family. The queen hesitated for a moment, then nodded. She led him through a narrow tunnel behind the throne. The floor was shaking and pieces of stone fell as they ran. Behind them, the palace continued to burn. At one point, the tunnel collapsed partially. Ryan pushed the rocks aside with his bare hand so she could pass. When they reached the end, they came out into a forest filled with glowing trees and mist. It was quiet here, a strange silence after all the noise. Ryan fell to his knees, catching his breath. His armor was smoking. The queen looked at him with mixed emotions, confusion, respect, and something she couldn't explain. "You're hurt," she said softly. "I'll live," he replied. He stood again, scanning the dark forest for enemies. The queen looked back at the palace in the distance. Flames rose high into the sky. Her voice trembled when she spoke. "My empire is gone. My people scattered." Ryan looked at her. "You're still here. That's what matters." For a long time, they said nothing. The night wind moved through the glowing trees, carrying the faint echo of explosions far away. Finally, the queen asked, "Why did you stay? You could have escaped with the others." Ryan took a slow breath. "Because someone needed to stay. Someone had to protect you. That's what soldiers do." She turned to face him. "Even for someone not of your world?" "Especially then," he said. The queen studied him for a while. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not as a ruler, but as a person. She saw no fear in his eyes, only a quiet strength. "We'll rest here," he said after a moment. "Then find a safer place before dawn." She nodded silently. They sat near a fallen tree. Ryan began checking his rifle again, trying to fix a broken part using bits of wire from his damaged armor. The queen watched him curiously. Every move he made was careful and focused, even though he was exhausted. "You humans," she said quietly. "You fight with such small bodies, but your hearts are..." Larger than I expected. Ryan gave a tired smile. We just don't know when to quit. The Queen looked away, hiding her small smile. For the first time since the war began, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. As the night deepened, distant lights moved through the sky. Search drones hunting for survivors. Ryan noticed them and stood up quickly. They're scanning the area, he said. We need to move again. The Queen spread her wings slightly, weak but ready. There's an old temple to the east. We might reach it by dawn. Ryan nodded. Then we go. They walked through the glowing forest, their shadows long under the red-tinted moon. The Queen moved slowly, still recovering from the fall of her palace. Ryan stayed close beside her, guarding every step. At one point she stumbled on a root. Without thinking, Ryan caught her again, steadying her balance. Their eyes met for a brief moment. She looked away quickly, her cheeks glowing faintly in the light. You humans, she said softly, almost to herself, always helping without asking why. Ryan didn't answer. He just smiled and kept walking. By the time they reached the edge of the forest, dawn was breaking. The first light touched the hills, revealing smoke rising from what used to be the capital. The Queen stopped and looked back one last time. Her wings folded around her as tears welled in her eyes. Ryan placed a hand on her shoulder. You can rebuild, he said quietly. You're still alive. That means there's a chance. She looked at him with surprise. His words were simple, but they carried weight. She could feel the warmth of his hand through her armor. You believe that? She asked softly. I have to, he said. If I didn't believe in second chances, I wouldn't still be here. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The wind blew gently and the world seemed calm again. The Queen looked at the human beside her, the soldier who stayed when everyone else ran. She realized then that courage was not a matter of race or power. It was something far deeper. As they disappeared into the mist of the morning, she whispered to herself, One human stood when all my armies fled. Ryan heard her words, but said nothing. He simply kept walking, rifle in hand, guarding the last hope of a fallen empire. That night, as stars began to return to the sky, the Queen looked at him one last time before closing her eyes to rest. She didn't know what would come next, but she knew this. As long as the human soldier stayed beside her, she would never feel alone again. And so began the quiet journey of the last Queen of Virelia and the one human who refused to abandon her, walking together into the unknown light of a new dawn. The next morning the forest was quiet. A cool mist moved between the tall glowing trees as sunlight broke through the branches. Ryan woke first. His armor was cracked, his weapon half dead, but his eyes were alert. He looked at the alien Queen resting against a tree. Her wings shimmered faintly in the morning light. For the first time she looked peaceful, not like a ruler but like someone who had carried too much weight for too long. Ryan moved carefully, checking their surroundings. He listened for any sound of drones or enemies, but only birds and wind answered. He took a deep breath and started to repair his rifle with a few broken wires and metal scraps. He knew they couldn't stay in one place for long. After a while, the Queen stirred. She blinked slowly, her silver eyes catching the light. You didn't sleep, she said softly. Ryan smiled faintly. Old habit. Soldiers sleep when it's safe. Right now it's not. The Queen stood slowly. Her long cloak was torn and her crown was gone, but there was still something powerful in the way she moved. Where will we go? She asked. You said something about a temple, Ryan reminded her. We should head there. It might give us shelter. She nodded. It's a sacred place and very old. My ancestors built it before the First Empire. No machines can enter it. It might keep us safe for a while. They started walking again. The forest floor glowed softly beneath their steps. Birds with crystal feathers watched from the trees. The world was beautiful even after war. As they walked, the Queen glanced at Ryan several times. You fight differently than my people, she said after a long silence. You risked everything for me. Why? Ryan kept walking. Because it was right. You were in danger. I couldn't just walk away. The Queen tilted her head. You humans? Your hearts are strange. So fragile, yet you face death without fear. Ryan laughed softly. Maybe we're just bad at giving up. Her lips curved into a small smile. It was the first real smile he had seen from her. It gave him a strange warmth inside. Not the kind from fire, but something deeper, something quiet. By noon, they reached the ancient temple. It stood in the middle of a valley, built of dark stone covered in vines. Strange runes glowed on the walls, alive with soft blue light. The queen touched the symbols as they entered, and the air around them shimmered. "No machines can follow us in here," she said. "The temple will hide us for now." Ryan nodded, looking around the huge hall. Pillars reached toward the ceiling, and light from above fell in gentle beams. He set down his rifle and took a seat against one of the walls. His body ached, and every breath reminded him of the last battle. The queen sat across from him, silent for a while. Then she spoke quietly. "You are hurt, aren't you?" "Nothing serious," he said. "I've had worse." But she could see the truth in his eyes, the pain he tried to hide. Without a word, she placed her hand over his chest. A faint light passed from her fingers, and the wounds began to ease. Ryan blinked in surprise. "You didn't have to do that." "I did," she said gently. "You have done more than I ever expected from anyone. You stayed." He looked at her for a long time. "That's what we do on Earth. We don't leave people behind." The queen smiled again, but her eyes were sad. "Then Earth must be a good place." Ryan looked away for a moment. "It has its flaws, but it has good people." Hours passed. The two of them worked quietly, Ryan strengthening the temple entrance and the queen using her remaining power to cloak the area. They didn't speak much, but there was a strange peace between them. That peace ended when a low humming sound echoed outside. Ryan froze. He moved to the doorway and peered through a crack. Drones were flying across the valley, hundreds of them searching. "They've found us," he said. The queen's face hardened. "They can't enter the temple, but they can surround it. We'll be trapped." Ryan gripped his weapon. "Then we fight." She turned to him sharply. "You can't take them all alone. Your weapon is weak. You'll die for nothing." He looked back at her calmly. "Maybe, but I promised I'd protect you." The queen took a slow breath, her wings spreading slightly. "Then let me fight with you." She walked toward him, her hands glowing with soft light. "My energy is fading, but I can share it. I can give you part of my strength." Ryan hesitated. "What happens if you do that?" She smiled sadly. "Then we'll both stand together. No matter what comes," he nodded once. "Let's do it." She placed her hands on his rifle. A surge of blue energy flowed through it, making the metal hum. The lights along its barrel began to shine brighter than before. Ryan felt the power run through him. Alien, warm, alive. Outside, the drones started to attack. The temple doors shook under their weapons. Ryan took position near the entrance, the queen standing behind him. The air crackled with tension. When the doors finally burst open, the first wave of machines entered. Ryan fired. The rifle roared with a sound like thunder, bright energy tearing through the metal attackers. Sparks flew everywhere. The queen lifted her hands, sending waves of light that froze the drones in midair. Together they fought, human and alien, side by side. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. The fight was endless. Ryan's armor broke piece by piece, and the queen's glow grew dimmer, but neither of them stepped back. When the last drone exploded, silence filled the temple. Smoke hung in the air. Ryan dropped to his knees, breathing heavily. The queen ran to him, catching him before he fell. "Ryan," she said softly. "Stay with me." He smiled weakly. "Still here." Her hands trembled as she looked at him. "You've saved me twice now. My people, they should have done this. Not you." He looked up at her. "Doesn't matter who should have done it. Someone had to." Tears filled her eyes. "Humans, you are strange creatures." "Yeah," he said with a small smile. "We get that a lot." Outside, the sky began to clear. For the first time in days, sunlight touched the land. The smoke was lifting. Far away, ships appeared. Friendly ones, survivors of the Queen's army. They had returned after hearing that the Queen still lived. Ryan tried to stand, but his strength was gone. The Queen held him close, her voice shaking. "You've done enough. Rest now." "I'll rest when you're safe," he murmured. She looked down at him, her heart heavy. "You already made me safe." When the rescue ships landed, the Queen ordered her people to carry the human soldier with care. Every alien who saw him stopped and stared. A single human had done what entire legions could not. He had stood against an army and lived. Days later, when Ryan finally woke in a recovery chamber, the Queen was there beside him. Her wings were healed, her armor restored. She smiled softly when he opened his eyes. "You're awake," she said gently. He blinked. "Did we win?" She nodded. "Because of you, we survived. My people will remember this day." Ryan sat up slowly. "Good, maybe now there's a chance for peace." The Queen's eyes glowed softly. There will be. I'll make sure of it. When the Virelian capital was rebuilt, a statue was placed in the center of the city. It showed a human soldier standing in front of the Queen, rifle in hand, guarding her from the storm. Below it were simple words written in both their languages. When all others fled, one human remained. The story spread across the stars. It became a legend, the tale of the human who stayed when the universe turned its back. And though many years passed, the Queen never forgot the look in his eyes when he said, "You're not alone."